sport. I'm going to tell you something here. Now, let me say this to you. Yesterday, we had Merrill Reese on, and he told me to say hi to our next guest. I'm going to bring him in here in a second. But how many people think that Keith Byars helped Randall Cunningham? Before I bring Keith in, do you know every single time Keith Byars touched the ball for his 7 years in Philadelphia, do you know he averaged a first down? Every 2 times, 5.5 yards per touch. You don't think somebody like Bijan Robinson could help Jalen Hurts when you got a dual threat player like Keith Byars? And what just so happens is the Eagles are sitting at 10, and in 1986, 37 years ago, this man right here was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles at 10. Can you believe it's been that long, Keith?
I cannot believe it's been that long. Wow, time does fly. It does fly.
Keith, yes. Where were you when you were drafted?
I was having a conversation with some friends of mine last week, and they said, man, did you go to New York? I'm like, no, New York is new school. I'm old school, like pandemic school. I was at home with my family in my basement at my home that I childhood home I grew up with. And that's where I was. Draft was on a Wednesday back in 1986. And it started at 8 o'clock in the morning and it went to about past midnight that same day. It was a long marathon. One day draft about 2 o'clock in the morning. I guess that's when teams were calling for free agents. So you knew. So 8 o'clock in the morning when the draft started. And I was a 10th player pick. And I got picked a little before noon, if I'm not mistaken, around that time.
Did you think that would be? Were you happy with where you went, Keith? Did you think you were going to go around that area there?
Well, I was kind of confused, since I only played like 4 games my senior season. I knew the first pick of the draft was going to be, a long shot. But Tampa was the first pick. They brought me in anyway, for a talk and just see how, what my health was like. And I had an operation in that January of 1986, and I didn't get out of it. I was in a cast for over 12 weeks. And by the time I got out of the cast, we're getting close to draft time. And at the time, it was 28 teams in the NFL. And I visited 21 of 28 teams in a 10-day period. And the last team that I visited was the Pittsburgh Steelers. And a lot of people had me possibly going to the Steelers. And while I was in Pittsburgh that afternoon, the Eagles called and said, we need you to fly and meet with our doctors here in Philadelphia. And by that point, I was exhausted. I'm like, I'm not flying anyplace else. I got one more flight into me, and that's to Dayton, Ohio, to go back home with my family. And that was my only interaction with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then that night, you may have heard that story, Buddy Ryan had a Monday night radio show. That was his first year in Philadelphia. And he called me a medical reject. Because he called me a medical reject, a lot of the other teams got scared, and the Steelers, had me going at 9, and they didn't draft me. And I was happy about not going to Philadelphia. Not going to Pittsburgh. My father's from Pittsburgh. I got a ton of family from Pittsburgh, and I've been a Pittsburgh Steeler hater my whole life. I grew up a Cleveland Browns fan. So they were like, all these years you've been hating Pittsburgh, you're coming to Pittsburgh. I'm like, no. And then the team that picked 11th that year was the Cincinnati Bengals. And I never liked the Bengals either. I'm like, and the Bengals told me, if you're there at 11, we're going to get you. And I'm like, man, I played my whole career in Ohio and it's not in Cleveland? No. So Philadelphia would never cross my mind. And then only time I heard from Philadelphia after that was on draft day. The Eagles called me when they were about the 3rd or 4th pick of the draft was going on. The Eagles called and they said, well, if you're still there at 10, would you have a surgery? We want to bring you in. And if we draft you at 10, we want to insert a pin in your foot, to make sure you have any more problems. And I was like, no, I don't want no more surgeries. And if y'all draft me at 10, I'm not going to submit to a surgery. And they was like, really? I was like, no. And so they said, okay, fine. They hung up the phone, and my mother and father looked at me, especially my father. He was sick at the time, and he passed a year later. And he was like, Keith, you sure about that? I said, Dad, I don't need any more surgeries. I've been praying about it. You know, my father was a preacher. I said, Lord said, I'm not going to need any more surgeries on this foot. And he was like, I trusted my faith. And then my father was like, okay. You know, I believe
you know, Keith, some people don't realize, man, if you don't have to cut on me, you ain't cutting on me, man.
No. Exactly.
You were not right, Dan. Hey, it was you and Bo then, right? It was you and that was you and the Bo Jackson. And when that whole fiasco went down with the Buccaneers and they lose that pick because Bo told them. So it was that's why you probably visited a lot of places. Correct. Because it was between you and Bo, right?
Exactly. You know, Bo said, I'm gonna play ball. He didn't say what kind of ball. He said ball. Football or basketball or baseball. You know, so that's why they wanted to see where I was. And, you know, when I had visited Tampa, I was like really newly out of a cast. I mean, I'm not even running yet. So I didn't even start running until like June. You know, I'm just able to walk without a cast, off crutches and everything else.
Were you ready to go for the start of the 86 season?
Yes. I got cleared the week of the first game. I had no preseason game, no practices other than the week of the first game. And I started. I started the first game of the season.
Okay, Keith, I need your input here. I want Bijan Robinson at 10, where you went at 10, and I say this is why. This is why I say I want to hear you. You helped the passing game, the screen game, the run game. You helped Randall, and with a better O-line like Jalen has, this guy is not just a running back here, Keith. Tell me what your belief is. Do you think the Eagles should take Bijan at 10?
Ooh. I think they should, but would they? I don't know, because you drafted a running back early already. God, just left. It just went to Tampa. I mean, just went to North Carolina.
Carolina. Miles Sanders.
So do the Eagles?
And he had 1,300 yards last year and 11 touchdowns.
Coming off a Pro Bowl season, you have a running back. So do the Eagles value one guy that much? I don't think they do. They more running back by committee. So if you draft Bijan Robinson, are you going to commit to him to play 3 downs? You know, the first rounder, I would hope so. I mean, and you still have Boston Scott on the roster. You just Rashad Penny. You
got Gainwell. You got Gainwell there too.
Oh, you're still going to do running back by committee, even though they did that last year and it worked out. Miles Sanders still had 1,000 yards, but this guy's special. I mean, it's still running back by committee. If I draft Bijan Robinson, he has got to be in there for 80% of the snaps.
But what kept you in there, Keith? Tell me if I'm wrong here. What kept you as 3 down was your catching ability and your the way that you were able to be part of the passing game. This guy's a hell of a receiver, and the Eagles have really no screen game whatsoever. Doesn't that help also the passing game when you put a guy has a great ability to be able to do what you did and be you were kind of a dual threat guy, and you could play anywhere on the field all 3 downs.
You're right, and he would have that ability to do that too. And when you're able to do that, you're dictating to the defense more so than the defense dictating to you. Because Bijan Robinson, he would have to learn to block, but he can be taught that. So once he shows that he can block, oh my gosh, teams will be afraid to blitz because they don't know if they send that extra blitzer and he's the hot receiver. Now you got him in open space with a little defensive back. He's gonna kill that guy. Whereas having a linebacker, more slated to cover him. But either way, he's gonna be the better athlete. It'll be the advantage, to the Eagles. So I would love the Eagles to draft him. But this is draft day. You're always a little antsy about which way teams are going to show their hand. But he would be a perfect Eagle to draft.
Keith, how hard was it for you to pick up? Because you were so good in college, your junior year, that 1,700 yards and all that. I mean, just spectacular stuff. I mean, and then when you got to the NFL, you never came off the field. It was you and Keith and Chris Carter and all them guys. You had a shitty O-line, but you guys had such great players back there. Was it difficult to pick up the complex pass protection and what you had to do. Did that take a little bit more time than you thought it would when you had to pick up pass protection?
Not really. It was easier for me because I've always been a student of the game. And because I had no training camp, the only thing I could do was take mental reps. So I had way more mental reps than anybody. I had no physical reps. So I was, always taught me when I was in college, Jim Tressel was my running back coach my junior year.
Huh.
And he had told me when he first got to Ohio State, he said, Keith, that first spring practice we went through, I don't know if you recall or not, but you had a lot of reps, more so than you should have done any other starter, should have got nothing starting running backs. He said, the reason why you got so many reps, when you wasn't in, you was asking me questions I did not know the answers to. He said, so after spring ball was over with, Earl Bruce was the head coach, brought Tressel in his office, and he said, you know why I brought you here? And he said, well, other than because he coached the quarterbacks and the running backs. And so Jim Tressel was like, I'm just happy to leave Syracuse and be at a big-time university, a bigger university than Ohio State. He said, it was because of Keith Byars. He said, Keith Byars wants to be great. And he wants a coach. He needs a coach who's going to help him be great. So he's going to be on you every day, in your ear, so you have got to be prepared. And so Tressel said, I knew about the passing game. I didn't care much about the running game until I got it in touch, until I got connected to you, and you showed me how important the running game is. So you made me as a coach go study the running game and see how important it is. And that's been one of the trademarks of Jim Tressel's, career, when he was still coaching. But so I've always been a student of the game. So if I got to the pros, I was learning. And so when I started the first game of the season, Buddy Ryan, we had practiced, we played in Washington the first game. And so at practice, Buddy was having me in there, and he was asking the coaches, did you know that? And they were like, yeah. He knows that too? Yeah. And I'm like, I'm supposed to know. I did it for free. I learned for free. Now y'all paying me? You think I'm not going to know? Of course I'm going to know this stuff. And so they had no confidence, to put me in there.
I got to tell you.
I made no mental mistakes.
I got to tell you a quick Ohio State story. So, man, my whole time in high school, I'm talking to Woody. And I didn't realize what a list he had. This is, we want to come and play here the half day. He goes, we did that. And then my sophomore year or my junior year, he gets fired for the Clemson thing. And I think this guy's name was Gary Hart.
Gary Hart, yes.
Gary Hart came to my school and he goes, we got your coach, Earl Bruce. And I'm like, yeah, man, I want to play for Woody, man. I wanted to play for Woody my whole dream was to play at the Rose Bowl and for Woody. And Woody called me up and he goes, what that? I got to tell you, Earl's assistant for me. He did that. My grandfather's like, who is that? I go, it's Woody Hayes. He goes, he's got a list. I go, don't let that list fool you, man.
Don't let it
this
fool
guy
you.
will shake this guy will shake the dentures out of your mouth.
Very true. Very true. I mean,
were you recruited by Woody?
No. Well, yes and no. No. I was 4 years beyond Woody's last year.
Okay.
And so during the recruiting process, Woody Hayes called me. And the first time, he called me, my older sister answered the phone. And she said, Keith, is Woody Hayes on the phone? I'm like, Woody Hayes? Right. Woody's not even a coach anymore. And he called, I answered the phone. And Woody Hayes' voice, can nobody imitate his voice other than Woody? And this is really Woody Hayes. And he's cursing me out. I get cursed out.
Let me guess, you're visiting Michigan.
Well, he heard about that visit, and he asked me, did I want to be great? And he said, yeah, what the hell are you doing going to Michigan? Why haven't you committed to Ohio State yet? Well, I haven't been to Ohio State yet. I got a visit coming up next week. Well, I want to meet you when you come there. Coach, I want to meet you. I would love to meet you. All the great players in Ohio stay in Ohio. They don't leave. And I got to meet him on my recruiting visit. We went to lunch. And I had Woody Hayes to my left and Earl Bruce to my right. I'm going to get myself out of frame. Gotcha. Earl Bruce to my right. I probably said about 3 or 4 words. I'm just sitting there just catching these pearls of wisdom that they were dropping on me. I'm like, I wish I had a camera.
I got to tell you this. Yesterday, Merrill Reese goes, I want you to make sure you tell Keith, ask him about his radio show with Andre Waters and him that these guys used to do. They used to do this radio show in Philadelphia, and he goes, it was an absolute hoot. You had to enjoy doing that with with Andre, because Andre is a great dude.
Andre was the best. I miss him. God rest his soul. I miss him every day. Andre was just a genuine great guy. I know his nickname was Andre Dirty Waters, but that was just on the field. Off the field, he was Andre Clean Waters. Living Waters. You just love to be a part of that guy.
How about Wes Hopkins? How about Wes?
Oh gosh, Wild West. Just another, just a tremendous guy who I'm glad they was on my team. I'm glad I got to play with them, instead of against them. Just great memories.
Keith, I want to show you this kid Jalen Carter that's coming out of Georgia.
Oh yeah.
I've never in my 35 years ever done this, and I said that in my 35 years on the air, I said I've never seen a guy that I would compare to this guy right here. He's that kind of football player. And I said, if Jalen Carter's there at 10 also, would you draft Jerome Brown? And I've never compared a guy that I played 3 years next to. I've never done that. And to me, I know he's got some issues off the field. So did JB. We all did when we were young kids. We all did. And so, someone asked me about, well, the kid lied to the cops. I go, well, if I was speeding and the cop asked me if I was speeding, I would lie. Yeah. I said, because it would hurt my draft status. Smart people make dumb mistakes. Okay? Mm-hmm. Dumb people make good mistakes. You got to just go with it here. So if you knew there was Jerome Brown at 10, would you draft him?
Ooh, that's a high bar. Jalen Carter and Jerome Brown. Ooh.
Jerome went 9 now.
I know. In my opinion, you know more about Miami football than I do. But Jerome
but you and me know both about that guy.
Yeah, he's the greatest defensive lineman to ever play at Miami, and I don't know why enough people don't say that enough.
No, he is.
He is. I mean, they've had Warren Sapp, Cortez Kennedy.
He's better than Sapp and Cortez. I recruited Cortez. Here's what I say about Jerome. If Jerome would have kept it going, Jerome Brown would have went into the Hall of Fame probably the same time that Reggie went in. And I would say this with all of you guys. If Jerome didn't pass away, I think that probably would have kept many of you still in Philadelphia. If that whole thing didn't start to fade away, and I know when Buddy got fired, that kind of changed the room and the owner not wanting Lachey and all that, and you guys were forced out. It was a horrible scenario with Norman Brayman, who's still alive and lives in Miami, believe it or not. I mean, I think that was the beginning of the end, wasn't it, when Jerome passed?
I would think that's exactly right. I mean, you're right. Jerome. When people ask me about my Philadelphia Eagle teammates, and I was like, what's the Philadelphia Eagle nickname? It's the city of brotherly love. We were literally brothers. Everybody on that, not everybody, but 90% of us were brothers. Didn't matter what color you was, what religion you were. We were brothers. That's how close, we were. When Jerome got drafted to the Eagles, I had met him at a banquet when he was in college. And when he got drafted to the Eagles, I immediately went over there when he came into Philadelphia. I said, took him, you my little brother, man. I know where you're gonna live. You're gonna be my next door neighbor. And he moved here next door to me.
Wasn't it Keith Jackson, you and Jerome
Then when Keith got drafted the following year, Keith, you gonna live. I live here, Keith, Jerome there, and there's Keith around the corner. You can throw a rock at all three of our houses. That's how close we were. Only brothers, like, you can look where you want, but I know where you're gonna live. You're gonna live next to me. And so we were together on the field, off the field, all the time. And, as brothers, you can say anything you want to us, and it's going to be okay. Because I can't imagine if Jerome would have still been living, Reggie. I think we all would have stayed in Philadelphia, even for less money. It would. Yeah. We would have stayed, together.
Hey, do you agree, Keith? I think if I tell people, someone goes, Sills, what would have happened if Jerome had lived? I said he'd have been the football version of Charles Barkley. He'd have been the football, because you know him, man, with that big mouth. His man, loud as hell, big old target.
Yeah, absolutely. He was like right there, right on the, after his 5th year. He was that 91 season would have been so. I mean, that 91 season was special, but 92 would have just been even bigger and better.
Keith, do you feel that it was unfinished business with you guys there in Philadelphia?
Oh, no question. Even to this day, it's still unfinished business. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl a few years ago, that was close to finished business. Even though I didn't get a ring, I felt a part of that team. Yes, finally, that monkey's off the Eagles. Philadelphia's back. They've won championships, but not Super Bowls. But I felt a part of that. I mean, and then when I went and played in Super Bowl 31 against Keith Jackson and Reggie White, I'm like, well, one of us is going to get a ring, today. Hopefully it's me. But, one of us is going to get a ring. And it was those two guys. And as hurting and disappointed as that loss was to me, hey, Jay got one. Seth got one. Seth Joyner, got one 2 years later. It just, that team, all of us, deserved it. I mean, and that's what, Philadelphia brought us together, but it could never tear us apart. I mean,
hey,
we are
two last
still
questions
one.
for you here. Jalen Hurts, what's your take on him? What's your feelings on what he has done? And I say this, and you could probably appreciate this. I had Jimmy Johnson on the other day, and I said this guy's Jamal Holloway that can throw. I said that's who basically he is. Remember, a lot of people probably don't know who he is, but
exactly.
I said this guy's Jamal Holloway can throw, right?
Yes. I mean, and you look at, Jalen Hurts, 3 years, he got better every year. They put him in at the end of his rookie season. Oh, okay, we don't know what he's going to do. After that year, they say, hey, he's QB1. Okay, they make the playoffs. They lose in the first round, but you see improvement from year 1 to year 2. Now, last year's his third year. We got 10-point lead at halftime of the Super Bowl. Wow. What more could you ask out of a player? You want to see them improve every year. What is year 4 going to look like? Hey, well, I don't know about what the team would do, but I'm expecting, Jalen to take another step, as a professional development of his quarterbacking career, take another step, get even better. I mean, where will he be at, by the year 10? I don't know, but I like the progress that he's on, and I'm glad the Eagles rewarded him with a great contract.
I'm going to ask you this question, and it's not an insult to Ohio State, but I want to get your spin on it. In the 155 years, Ohio State has never produced a top-flight all-pro quarterback in that program's history ever. You guys have tremendous running backs, O-linemen, D-linemen, linebackers, corners, everywhere. Every position, there's a Hall of Famer in Canton, or there's an all-pro somewhere. Why at that position? And you even had Joe Burrow in the building, Keith, and you let the guy walk out the building to go to LSU and succeed. Why has that been always a struggling position for the Buckeyes to develop? I'm not saying they weren't great in college, but the guy, Art Schlichter, Mike Tomczak, guy Craig Krenzel, I mean, those guys aren't elite dudes.
Right. Well, that's a tough question. It's really, Well, define success. I mean, would you like? I wouldn't say Mike Tomczak wasn't a Pro Bowl quarterback, but he played a long time.
I played against him. He wasn't a bad football player.
Not at all.
I'm not talking all pro stuff like you, Keith. I'm talking about elite guys like Orlando Pace and shit like that.
Yes. My wife is leaving. I'm live on TV on the call. Thank you, honey. Live.
It's all good, man.
Yes, but
hey, by the way, how long have you been married?
I think it's 8 years.
Good.
8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 years. That's a low. I mean, it's all perception. Now, if I ask you that question, how many elite quarterbacks has Miami had?
Jim
The
Kelly.
superstar. And where does it stop there, doesn't it?
Well, unless you call Vinny.
Does it stop there?
Hey, wait. Unless you call Vinny. I don't know.
Vinny. I'll give you 2.
How
love
about
Vinny.
Bernie Kosar?
Okay, 3.
Okay, that's
We're
more
good.
than
That's a good number. That's a good number. You say Stanford. I would say Jim Plunkett, John Elway, and I guess you would say Luck. But would you count Luck or no? Andrew Luck.
Well, what did he win?
So two. Michigan.
Shit, Purdue's got more success. Dawson, the Breeze, Greasy.
Yes.
They got a bunch of guys.
So that's
there.
all. So it's a like, and it's just a right now question. When you look at all of them, I mean, what about Michigan? They're stuck at one.
Well, you don't like Rick Leach?
Yeah, right.
Hey, real quick before I get you out of here, what do you make of Justin Fields?
I love Justin, but I was going to say this too about the quarterback. That's all of them. It doesn't matter what position you play. You have to be drafted by the right team to help identify the best, identify your talents. I like Justin Fields a couple years ago when he got drafted. I was like, I wish he had went to New England and Mac Jones had went to Chicago.
Better coaching.
I think better coaching, and I think New England still would have made the playoffs with a rookie quarterback, Justin Fields, and Mac would have been, taking it on the chin, in Chicago. I asked somebody this question the other day. Who's Chicago's greatest quarterbacks? Can we name 3 great Chicago quarterbacks?
No, they haven't had an all-pro quarterback since Sid Luckman 70 years ago.
There you go. And so now Justin Fields is there. His year 3. They still don't have it. I might as well go out there. I can do better than what they surround him with. With my old behind. He don't have no receivers, no running backs. And it's like, all he does is run. Well, that's all he can do. But you got a quarterback run for 1,000 yards. That's a special talent. Give him some help. No, they're free agency. No receivers are going there. I mean, I hope they trade Justin Fields. Chicago doesn't deserve him.
Yeah, I thought they were going to trade him to get Bryce Young, and I thought they were going to do that.
I'll take that trade. I want to see Justin Fields be a successful quarterback. But
better coaching.
Chicago,
I completely agree. Okay, I'm going to sneak this last one in on you here. How much was it a culture shock you going from the Horseshoe to the Vet?
Wow.
How much did you go from that gigantic, beautiful Horseshoe, and then you walk in and the first thing you notice is the rip in the carpet?
Yes, I'm like, what? When I was getting my equipment, at Ohio State, we had 2 of everything. 2
I know you did.
Shoulder pads. And so when they fitted me, I'm like, okay, you want to fit me for my other helmet? What other helmet? What? All I got is one? Like, yes. No other pairs, no practice shoulder pads, no game shoulder pads? No. What do you think this is, Ohio State? No, not anymore, I don't.
Hey, Keith, that locker room you guys had under the Vet, man, I thought it was lockup or holdup or, man, I went windows, down there.
No
Jerome
windows,
shows me around,
nothing.
I'm like, dog, this is like a prison, man. He goes, look at the rats that are here, too. Did he show you
the weight room? It looked like a glorified closet. It was horrible. Horrible.
You go from the Horseshoe to the Vet. Unbelievable. Well, Keith, it's going to be interesting tonight, man. It's always great catching up with you, man, and I appreciate you always doing this. God bless you, my friend. I will catch you. We'll talk down the road.
Love to. Take care, Dan.
You got it, man. Love Keith Byars, man. 1986, 37 years ago, he was drafted, the 10th pick. And he's like, man, I'd love to see that. He'd love to see that pick, but he knows how they do everything by committee. Hey, can you imagine? Hang on. So what you do is you go from the Horseshoe, to Veterans Stadium that had that gigantic rip. And the other thing that was really obnoxious about the Vet, your second base. So when they put the football turf on, the second base was elevated. Like, you know how they had them sand pits at second base at the Vet? They were elevated. So you're running after a guy, boom, you kick it, you trip, face plant, bang. You're like, what did I kick? You kick second base. And get this, and the Eagles used to try to run you over the third and second bases in the middle of the field, man. Yeah. Dude, hey, guys, I know you love it, and I know you revered it when it was around, but, man, that was a shitty field. Holy cow, man. Worst AstroTurf field on the planet. It's second to none. But what was the section Hey, before I take a timeout, what was the section that used to have all them psycho fans? It was the second deck, or was it the upper deck at the vet? Lamar's earns 260. We're going to hit on that here at the top. 700? Yeah, was it the 7? It was 700. Yep, it was 700. Jerome used to go like this. He goes, you see the 700 level up there, man? Don't wear another jersey. If you were caught with a Cowboy jersey in the 700 level, you might get thrown off the top of the building. Like Fort Apache, the Bronx. You might get thrown off the top here. This deal, 185 mil guaranteed. We're going to talk about Lamar. Tonight's draft, we're going to recap. Holy shit, man. Last 2 days have been amazing, how fast the show's going. Hey, by the way, don't forget, tonight, JAKIB's Draft Show. Make sure you catch the fellas tonight. I'm sure they'll be all over it, and they'll give you nothing but a wonderful and professional job tonight, because that's what we do here at JAKIB. Everyone on this place is professional, and I'm sure they'll kick ass tonight. We're going to go for the final hour here. Please hit the like button. Keep it here on the National.